You know, sometimes people don't break your heart, they just show you who they really are. And when that truth hits, it doesn't break you, it builds you. I learned that the hard way, because the woman I loved, the one I thought I'd spend my whole life with, walked away from me. Not because she stopped loving me, but because she thought I wasn't good enough. Yeah, she left me for a pilot, a man with a uniform, a shiny badge, and a sky full of pride. And she told me something I'll never forget. Ion, you belong down here, not up there. She was right, I was down here, but what she didn't know was that one day she'd fly in the sky I owned. My name is Ion Khan, and this is the story of how a mechanic became the man behind the wings. Back then, I worked at a small aircraft maintenance hangar near Karachi International. It wasn't glamorous, the floor was always stained with oil, and the air smelled like burnt fuel and sweat. My hands were rough, my shoes were torn, and my salary barely enough to survive. But every morning when I looked at those airplanes waiting to be repaired, I felt alive, because every engine I fixed, every bolt I tightened, was like giving life back to something powerful. I used to tell my colleagues, people see metal, I see miracles. They'd laugh, call me a dreamer, but I didn't mind, because dreams are built from the very things others ignore. Then one day, she walked into my life. Maya, she wasn't like anyone else I'd met. She had this effortless grace, the kind that made time slow down when she smiled. Her brother was training to be a pilot, so she often visited the hangar with him. The first time I saw her, she was standing under a plane wing, shielding her eyes from the sun, watching the aircraft take off like she was watching her own hopes fly away. I was tightening a screw under a Cessna when she walked up to me and said, "Doesn't this job ever get tiring, always fixing what others break?" I laughed, maybe, but at least I know how to make things work again. She smiled, that kind of smile that lingers in your head long after she's gone. From that day, she'd show up more often, sometimes with her brother, sometimes alone. She'd bring tea, sometimes lunch, and she'd sit there watching me work, pretending to scroll through her phone. I used to act like I didn't notice, but every time I'd look up, she'd look away with that shy little smile that said more than words ever could. Soon we started talking about life, dreams, what happiness meant. She'd say, "I love how passionate you are about your work. Most men just complain." I'd laugh, "That's because I don't see this as work, it's purpose." Day by day, that connection grew stronger. Her laugh became my favorite sound. Her presence made every long shift feel lighter. I didn't have money, but I had honesty, and she said that's what made her feel safe. One evening, we sat on the rooftop of the hangar, watching planes take off. I told her, "Someday I'll build one of those." She looked at me like I was crazy. "You'll build a plane?" "Yeah," I said. "If I can fix broken engines, I can surely build one that never stops flying." She laughed softly. "You're such a dreamer, Ion." And I replied, "Dreamers build the sky you fly in." At that moment, I thought, she believed in me. But belief fades when reality starts looking shiny. A few months later, she started acting differently. Less messages, shorter replies, more busy days. One afternoon, I saw her walking across the hangar with a man tall, sharp, wearing a crisp white pilot uniform. She introduced him. "Ion, this is Arman, Captain Arman Malik." The way she said captain, like the title itself meant more than the man. He shook my hand, smiled that smug smile. "You're the mechanic, right? Good work. Without you, we wouldn't fly." I said nothing, just nodded, but his tone, that patronizing tone, stayed with me. After they left, I felt something in my chest shift, something small, breaking. That night I messaged her, "Maya, are we okay?" She took hours to reply, then finally said, "Ion, you're amazing. But we're different people. You belong here, fixing things. Arman, he's where I want to be, in the sky." I stared at that message for so long, I didn't even realize my hands were shaking. When I finally typed back, I wrote only one thing: "One day, Maya, I'll meet you in that sky." And that was the last message I ever sent her. Days turned into months. She moved on with her pilot, and I turned that pain into power. I started staying longer at work, learning everything I could: engine blueprints, aircraft design, flight dynamics. Every night, I'd sit alone in the hangar, surrounded by noise and silence, and I'd whisper to myself, "I'll build something bigger than their dreams." My boss, old Hamid Sahib, noticed. He said, "You'll ruin your eyes reading all night." I smiled. Better my eyes than my vision. He laughed, but he helped me. Taught me everything: how to test engines, manage fuel flow, even aircraft economics. And when he retired, he handed me something that changed everything: his notebook, filled with designs he never finished. "This," he said, "is your starting point." I worked on those sketches for years, refined them, improved them, until one day a businessman from Dubai came to inspect our hangar. He saw my designs, studied them quietly, and said, "Do you know what you've made, boy? You've built the future." He offered to fund me. That's how Sky Nova Aerospace was born. From there, everything changed. Years of sleepless nights finally paid off. I moved from Karachi to Dubai, built a team, developed engines more efficient than anything the market had. And slowly we expanded. Soon we weren't just fixing aircraft, we were building them. And when the time came, I launched my own airline, Aerostar, the logo wings rising from ashes, because that's what I'd done. Years later, success had become normal. Meetings, conferences, travel. The same hangars that once looked down on me now invited me as sir. But deep down, I never forgot her words, "You belong down here." A funny thing about life, it waits for the right moment to turn the mirror. One morning, my assistant came in. "Sir, we have a special charter today, VIP passengers flying to Istanbul." I didn't care much until I saw the names: Captain Arman Malik, passenger Maya Arman. For a moment, I just stared at that screen. Then I smiled. Destiny had a wicked sense of humor. When they arrived at the private terminal, I was inspecting the jet myself. They didn't see me at first. But when Maya stepped out of the car and our eyes met, the world stopped for a second. She froze, then forced a polite smile. "Ayan, you still work here?" I returned the smile, something like that. The pilot, her husband now, extended his hand. "Good to see someone who keeps these beauties flying." I shook his hand. "I make sure they never fall." He laughed, not realizing the weight behind my words. They boarded, unaware that the man they pitied owned everything around them. As the flight took off, the captain announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Aerostar Airlines." And I watched through the glass as Maya's face changed, confusion first, then realization, because engraved right below the cockpit door in gold letters were the words, "Ayan Khan, founder and CEO." She stared at it for a long time. Her husband kept talking, but she wasn't hearing a word. That same man she once told would always stay down here was the one who built the wings carrying her Sky. When the flight landed, she didn't rush off like the others. She waited in the terminal, nervous, eyes searching for me. When I finally walked up, she whispered, "Ayan, I can't believe it." I said calmly, "Believe it, I can't either sometimes." She looked at me, the same eyes, but softer now. "I was so wrong," she said. "I thought you'd always stay the same." I smiled faintly. "I did stay the same, Maya. I just didn't stay small." Tears filled her eyes. "You must hate me." I looked past her toward the runway, where another jet was taking off. And I said, "Hate is heavy. I prefer flying light." She tried to speak again, but I stopped her gently. "You don't owe me anything. I should thank you, actually." "For what?" she asked. "For teaching me that sometimes losing someone is just life clearing space for something bigger." Then I turned and walked away, not with pride, but with peace, because for the first time I didn't need her to see my worth. I already did. That night, I stood by the window of my office, watching my planes take off into the clouds. And I whispered to myself, she said I belonged down here, but maybe being down here taught me how to build what others can only fly. Moral: never let someone's opinion decide your altitude. People who see you as small today might one day look up and see you flying higher than they ever imagined.